Chris Thorndyke. The name alone makes Sonic fans roll their eyes. For years, he's been ridiculed as the whiny rich kid who stole the spotlight in Sonic X, a character that fans claim had no reason to exist. Some say he was annoying, others say he was pointless, and most people dismissed him as just another forced human character in Sonic media. But what if I told you that Chris isn't just a good character? He might actually be one of the best written characters in Sonic history. Yes, really. Chris's story is about breaking free from expectations, finding his own identity, and learning what it truly means to be strong. He is one of the characters most transformed by Sonic's ideals and philosophy in the entire franchise, which may just make him one of the best Sonic characters. And the craziest part? Most fans completely misunderstood his arc. A huge reason for this misunderstanding comes from the 4Kids localization of Sonic X. The Japanese version of the show tells a much deeper and more emotional story, but the English dub cut out key scenes, softened emotional moments, and even changed character motivations. So, today, we're going to dive deep into Chris's story as it was originally intended, uncovering his hidden depth and proving once and for all why Sonic X told one of the most compelling human stories in the franchise. To truly understand Chris's story, we need to go back to one of the most important moments in Sonic X, a scene that was completely removed from the 4Kids dub. In episode 51, we see a flashback of a very young Chris, maybe 3 or 4 years old, standing in his family's massive mansion. His parents, Nelson and Lindsay, are about to leave for work. Chris, still just a small child, looks up at them and asks, "If I behave, will you come home right away?" There's a brief silence. His parents exchange uncomfortable glances, as if they already know the truth. They won't be back anytime soon. But instead of admitting it, they force a reassuring smile and say, "Of course, I love you, Chris." And then they leave. This is a crushing moment because for Chris, it becomes the core belief that shapes his entire personality. At such a young age, he internalizes the idea that being good means being rewarded with love and attention. If he follows the rules, if he behaves, his parents will come back, but they never do. Time passes, and Chris continues to be the obedient, well-mannered son, waiting patiently for his parents to spend time with him. Yet no matter how much he follows their words, no matter how perfectly he behaves, they remain absent. This is where Chris's character takes on a deeper layer of tragedy. Even though he grows up in wealth, surrounded by caring adults like his grandfather Chuck and the family servants, he still feels profoundly lonely. His parents, the people whose love he values the most, are always distant, physically and emotionally. And here's the worst part. Chris never questions it. Instead of realizing that his parents' words were empty promises, he blames himself. Maybe I'm not being good enough. Maybe if I just try harder, they'll finally stay. And so, he continues to play the role of the perfect son. He becomes trapped in the curse of being a good boy. This is why, when Sonic X begins, Chris already seems like a well-adjusted, morally upright kid. He's polite, he's responsible, and he always does the right thing. But deep down, all of it, his manners, his selflessness, his desire to help others, it's all a mask. A mask created by a child still waiting for his parents to come home. And this is what makes his encounter with Sonic so powerful. Sonic isn't just a cool hero to Chris. He's the first person to ever see through his mask. From the moment they meet, Sonic notices something strange about him. Unlike the adults around Chris who just assume he's naturally obedient, Sonic sees the hesitation in his words, the way he apologizes, even when he's done nothing wrong. And it doesn't take long before he pushes Chris outside his comfort zone. Early in Sonic X, Chris has his first real moment of rebellion. When Eggman steals a Chaos Emerald, Chris impulsively jumps onto the villain's machine, risking his life to snatch the emerald back. It's reckless, it's dangerous, and for once, Chris is acting on instinct instead of obligation. Most adults in his life would have scolded him for doing something so risky, but Sonic smiles. "Why are you apologizing? That was really cool." And just like that, Chris hears something he's never heard before. Not praise for being good, not scolding for breaking the rules, but recognition for acting on his own will. That's the first time Chris starts questioning his good boy persona. And from that moment forward, his relationship with Sonic becomes more than just admiration. It becomes a test of his identity. Throughout the series, Chris follows Sonic, trying to learn from him, trying to be more like him. Because Sonic is everything Chris was never allowed to be: free, independent, and able to chase what he wants without fear. But if Chris is going to break free from his past, he needs more than just admiration. He needs to truly understand what it means to live by your own choices. And that's where his real journey begins. As Sonic X progresses, Chris's admiration for Sonic grows into something much deeper: dependency. Sonic is more than just his hero. He's the first real connection Chris has ever had. And the more time they spend together, the more Chris starts to fear losing him. This fear becomes the heart of Chris's internal conflict. Throughout the series, Chris struggles with two opposing voices inside him. One tells him, Sonic is your friend, and friends should support each other. You should help him go home. But the other voice, the one he doesn't want to admit is there, whispers, if Sonic leaves, you'll be alone again. You need to keep him here. For a long time, Chris ignores this struggle, pushing his true feelings aside. He convinces himself that as long as Sonic is around, everything will be okay. But eventually, he's forced to confront the truth. As the second season builds toward its climax, Sonic and his friends finally have the means to return to their own world. Chris should be happy. After all, this was their goal from the start. But when the moment actually arrives, he snaps. In one of the most shocking moments of the series, Chris steals the Chaos Emeralds and runs away with Sonic, refusing to let him leave. At first glance, this seems like pure selfishness, and in a way it is. But it's also Chris's breaking point, the moment where his good boy mask fully shatters, and he acts on his true emotions for the first time. For once, he's not following what's expected. He's not doing what's right. He's acting purely on what he wants, and that is exactly why this moment is so important. Chris has spent his entire life suppressing his emotions, convincing himself that being good will bring him happiness. But now, at his lowest point, he finally admits to himself what he really feels. I don't want you to leave. I can't do anything without you, Sonic. At that moment, Chris isn't just afraid of losing Sonic, he's afraid of losing himself. If Sonic leaves, who is he? Can he go back to being the good boy he was before? Or was that person never real to begin with? And that's when Sonic does something incredible. He doesn't scold Chris. He doesn't get angry. He simply smiles and says, "Thank you, Chris," because he understands. This moment is not about Chris failing to grow. It's about him finally learning to express what he really feels. And while he still hasn't accepted Sonic leaving, this moment is the first step toward understanding what true friendship really means. Chris and Sonic's final conversation before parting ways is Sonic X's most important moment, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. After running away with Sonic, Chris eventually realizes he can't force Sonic to stay. But that realization isn't enough. He still doesn't fully understand why Sonic has to leave. And so, we get the campfire scene, where Sonic, for the first time, explains what freedom really means. Chris asks, "Why did you come with me? If I told you not to leave, would you stay here forever?" Sonic doesn't give a direct answer. Instead, he simply says, "If that's what you wanted, I would." At first, this breaks Chris, because if Sonic is only staying because Chris asked him to, then that means Sonic isn't really free. And if Sonic isn't free, then their friendship isn't real. This is where Chris truly understands what Sonic represents. For Sonic, friendship is about choice. You don't stay with someone because you feel obligated. You stay because you want to. And for the first time, Chris realizes that the only way to truly be Sonic's friend is to let him go. The reason this scene is so powerful is because it isn't about Chris learning to be independent. It's about him learning to respect freedom. Sonic isn't just a friend to Chris. He's a symbol of what Chris has been searching for his whole life. Chris doesn't just want to be with Sonic, he wants to be like Sonic, free to live by his own choices, free to express his real feelings, and free to decide his own path. And so with tears in his eyes, he finally makes his first true decision. This place isn't good for you, Sonic. You didn't get a chance to run today, because I can't keep up with you. This moment is not a defeat, it's Chris's ultimate victory. By letting Sonic go, Chris proves that he has finally found his own will. He's no longer just following expectations. He's no longer just being good. For the first time, he's making a decision for himself. After parting ways with Sonic, Chris spends 6 long years trying to move on. But deep down, there's something unfinished, a lingering regret that won't go away. Because even though Chris made the right decision, there's one thing he still can't accept. He wasn't strong enough to keep up with Sonic. This isn't just about missing Sonic, it's about proving to himself that he can stand alongside him. So for 6 years, Chris trains. He learns martial arts, he studies engineering, he develops new skills, and all of it is for one reason, so that if he ever gets the chance, he can run alongside Sonic as an equal. And then, it happens. A new crisis emerges in Sonic's world, and thanks to an experiment, Chris is able to return. But here's the tragedy. His body didn't fully transfer. He's back to being a kid again. All of his years of training, all of his hard work, wasted. But instead of giving up, Chris does something incredible. He adapts. Even without his adult body, he still finds ways to be useful. He uses his engineering skills to build new technology that helps Sonic in battle. He works alongside Tails to create defenses against the Metarex, and in the end, he finally proves himself. He may not be able to run as fast as Sonic, he may never be as strong, but he doesn't have to be, because he finally understands what Sonic was telling him all along. You don't need to be like me, you just need to be you. Chris's final arc in Sonic X isn't about proving himself to Sonic. It's about proving himself to himself. He doesn't need to chase Sonic. He doesn't need to keep up. He just needs to find his own place in the world. And when his final moment comes, when he has to return home one last time, he doesn't cry. He doesn't fight it. He simply smiles. Because this time, he's truly free.
Sonic!
Now that we've uncovered the real story behind Chris's character arc, it's time to look at the bigger picture. Because Chris's journey isn't just about him. It's about Sonic himself. At its core, Sonic X is a story about freedom. From the very first episode, Sonic's character is defined by one simple thing. He never stays in one place for too long. He runs, he explores, he lives on his own terms. But when he lands in Chris's world, something different happens. For the first time, Sonic stays in one place. He's stuck in a human world where he can't roam freely. And while he doesn't seem to mind at first, it's clear that this isn't where he belongs. And yet, he stays. Why? Because he sees something in Chris that no one else does. Chris isn't just a good boy from a rich family. He's trapped in a world that expects him to behave a certain way. Trapped in a life where he's constantly doing what others want, never what he wants. Chris may not realize it at first, but he and Sonic are total opposites. Where Sonic is free, Chris is restrained. Where Sonic acts on impulse, Chris hesitates. Where Sonic is true to himself, Chris hides his feelings. And that's why their relationship is so important. Chris doesn't just admire Sonic, he wants to be like him. He wants to live freely. He wants to make his own choices. But after years of suppressing his emotions, he doesn't know how. And this is why Sonic never leaves him behind. Because he knows that Chris's journey isn't about learning to say goodbye. It's about learning to choose his own path. And when the time comes, Chris makes that choice. Even though it hurts, he lets Sonic go. Even though it means being alone again, he accepts reality. And when he comes back 6 years later, he doesn't return as the same naive kid. He returns as someone who has found his purpose. And Sonic, he's proud. Because this is exactly what he wanted all along. Not for Chris to move on, but for him to grow into the person he was meant to be. This is why Sonic X is more than just a fun anime. It's a story about how Sonic's philosophy changes the lives of those around him. It's why Sonic is such a powerful character. Not just because he's fast, not just because he's cool, but because his very presence inspires others to break free. And Chris is the ultimate proof of that. The journey wasn't about getting rid of him. It wasn't about making him stop caring about Sonic. It was about helping him realize that true friendship isn't about holding on. It's about believing in each other, no matter where life takes you. And that's why Chris might just be the most misunderstood and most well-written human character in Sonic history. I'd like to thank the Japanese channel Akatama Games for first presenting this viewpoint on Chris, and the user Sanglish for making English subtitles for their video. Thanks to this, I could bring this perspective to an English-speaking audience and in a more condensed way. If you want to learn about it in much more detail, you can go check their channel. Now, if you thought this was interesting, there's another thing that was completely changed from Japan. Music. Click on this video before it disappears. If you want to know why Sonic music is better in Japan,